The Crestwood Cinema was a majestic building with vintage charm, its once bright marquee now flickering like a fading memory. The Crestwood Cinema was a majestic building with vintage charm, its once bright marquee now flickering like a fading memory. It had been closed for years, supposedly due to an unsolved disappearance of a young projectionist named Leo, who vanished one night without a trace. To most people, the tales of Crestwood were just urban legends. But to a group of adventurous high school friends, Liam, Jesse, Marco, and Tara, the stories ignited a thrill they couldn't resist. They decided one dark October night to explore the theater, to find out if the stories were true and to discover the secrets hidden within its dusty walls. Equipped with flashlights and a sense of bravado, they pushed open the rotting wooden doors and stepped inside. The air was stale, the scent of mildew and neglect hanging heavily. The theater seats were draped in dust, and spider webs clung to the corners like ghostly curtains. As they ventured deeper, their flickering lights caught remnants of the cinema's golden age, a faded poster advertising a long-forgotten film, the cracked screen looming large in the shadowy auditorium, and a film projector, miraculously intact, gathering dust in the projection room. "Look at this," Marco said, his voice echoing off the walls as he approached the projector. "I wonder if it still works." Quote, "Yeah, and what do you think the chances are that it's haunted?" Jessie teased, but a chill raced up her spine. Ignoring her, Marco fiddled with the machine, his curiosity outweighing the gnawing sense of unease. After moments of tinkering, the projector whirred to life, casting a flickering beam onto the screen. The friends leaned forward, intrigued. At first, the film looked like any old horror flick, a group of teens exploring a deserted location, much like themselves. The laughter that danced through the air faded as they realized the narrative of the film began to mirror their own adventure. They could see people who looked unsettlingly similar to them, wandering through the same dark hallways they had just traversed, their expressions shifting from excitement to fear, as they stumbled upon a mysterious door in the cellar. "What the hell?" Liam murmured, his eyes wide. "Is this some kind of joke?" The film showed the characters opening the door and disappearing into an inky blackness, their terrified faces caught in the flickering light for just a moment before the scene shifted abruptly to chaos, their screams swallowed by static. The film cut to black, and the projector sputtered, seemingly out of control. "What is happening?" Tara exclaimed, backing away. Suddenly, the room felt colder, and an electric charge filled the air. A rumble echoed through the theater, shaking the walls. The group exchanged panicked glances, but Marco was fixated on the projector. The film started again, this time revealing a series of distorted images, faces screaming in terror, shadows dancing behind the screen, horror beyond comprehension that entranced him and repelled the others. "Stop it," Jesse cried, trying to pull him away, but Marco remained transfixed, his eyes glazed and unblinking. The film flickered once more before revealing a new scene, the calibration room of the theater, and there, in the brightness of the screen, Leo, the long-missing projectionist, stared back at them, his eyes hollow and pleading. "Help me," he mouthed, and with a final flash, the reel cut to darkness. As silence engulfed the theater, Marco suddenly came to, and sheer terror filled his eyes. "What did we just watch?" he stammered, his voice a murmur. Before anyone could respond, they heard it, a low growl reverberating through the air, the kind that raised the hairs on their arms. They peered toward the screen, where an enormous dark shape materialized. It was a grotesque silhouette of something eager, hungry, and far too real. "Run!" Liam shouted, racing toward the exit with the others close behind. But as they dashed out of the room, they felt a powerful force pulling them back, as though the very walls of the theater were alive, unwilling to let them escape like so many before. They tumbled through the dilapidated corridors, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. The sound of the growling creature echoed behind them, growing closer with each frantic step. Just as they reached the main entrance, the doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. "We're trapped," Tara cried, the panic rising in her voice. In that moment, they heard Leo's voice once more, echoing from the shadows, "You have to finish the reel. You have to find me." Quote, desperation ruled over fear. With their grounds for escape dwindling, they decided to face the source of the terror. They sprinted back to the projection room, seeking the answer in the haunted film. They stared at the projector, the unfinished reel whirling ominously. "Turn it back on," Jesse demanded. Marco, trembling, nodded and started the projection again. The flickering image returned, this time showing Leo fading, lost between frames, his agonized expression pleading for release. They realized that in their fear, they had been a part of the story all along, participants in a long cycle of terror that had entrapped Leo and many others. As they screamed, a surge of adrenaline rushed through them, and Liam shouted, "Together now. We find him." The four of them stood united in front of the flickering shadows, pushing through their fear, and they began to shout their own words of strength. The projector began to brighten, drowning out the darkness that swirled around them. There was a final, booming crash as they were enveloped in a blinding light. A moment later, the silence fell. When they finally opened their eyes, they were outside, scrambling on the wet grass, the cinema mere shadows behind them. The growls and screams transformed into the soft echo of the night as the theater faded into the background, and urgency turned to calm. "Did we?" Tara started, but Marco interrupted. "We have to leave this place, and we can never come back." Quote, "The scarred friends knew that they had escaped but were forever tainted by what they had witnessed. The unseen reel might have returned to its dark resting place, but the stories whispered in Alder's Creek would no longer just be legends. They were a warning. A bitter reminder of how some films are never meant to be witnessed, and some stories are better left unaired."